Well, last week, Eric Mateos was named the new offensive line coach, and he is in town, and he is in studio with us now. Eric Mateos, welcome to Studio B and welcome to BYU.
Hey, thank you. I'm super excited. Sorry, there's a lot of things to look at up on this table, so I don't even know where to look. But I'm super excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, and we've heard a lot about you, your time at Texas State and at Arkansas and LSU. Now here you are at BYU. So kind of walk us through what the last couple of weeks have been like as perhaps Jeff Grimes and Kalani Stuckey reached out and said, hey, we want you to come here.
Well, I saw that Ryan left, and I've known Ryan for a few years, and I saw that he left, and I kind of hit up Jeff right then and there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, coach.
Yeah, and saw that had happened, and anyways, I was looking at a couple other jobs, and then when this job opened up, I just slammed on the brakes and on all those other jobs that I was looking at, and said this is something I need to really go after. And I think Coach Grimes had a lot of interest in me doing it as well, and flew here for an interview the night of the Super Bowl. So did the long flight from San Antonio up to here during the night of the Super Bowl and interviewed the next day, and kind of waited it out a couple weeks, got to meet a lot of different people on campus, and then got the call last week that we were going to make it happen. So it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but been a lot of fun.
Did you get to watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I bought
the plane?
I bought the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I bought the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
There's no way I could not watch this.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
And Ryan Pugh was pulled from UTSA. So San Antonio Airport's the place to find BYU offensive line coaches.
Well, it's not that far. Actually, a funny story. When I got to Texas State, Ryan was at UTSA, and I actually that weekend that I got to town started my job there. I went over to his house. We had a bunch of crawfish.
Really?
Yeah, that weekend.
Wow.
So that's kind of a little
the Jeff Grimes guys.
Yeah, the Grimes guys. Yeah, yep.
I love it.
So we had some crawfish that weekend when I got into town.
Who cooked it? Did he?
Him, of course.
He did it. Okay.
Yeah, he's the Southerner.
Yeah.
Where
are you from?
I grew up mostly in Kansas City.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so there's no crawfish.
So you
there.
barbecue?
Yeah, barbecue.
More barbecue.
Yeah, definitely. If you couldn't tell.
But you're a lineman.
Yeah, of course.
You got big arms.
Yeah, I still work on those.
Yeah. I try. Look, feel that. Touch that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Can you imagine? I'm sorry, JR. This is
this is a players only.
Players coach. Let's just turn JR. So can you imagine? I'm 5'6", right? Can you imagine trying to come and cut me?
Yeah.
On a sweep or something.
Yeah.
What are you thinking like?
So, the number one strategy for O linemen that are going to block skinny people in space.
I'm skinny. Wait. We got
relatively speaking.
Relatively.
I'm short and buff.
Okay, short and buff guys.
Okay.
Short and buff guys in space. Skinnier people.
Okay.
People with less BMI. That strategy is to not slow down. Because if you're a big guy and you try to slow down to block that guy in space, you'll end up on your face. He'll make you miss.
Yeah.
And so my strategy would be to not stop and try to make you choose a side to get out of the way.
See, I like that. This is a good coach.
You're kind of testing him.
I was testing.
First interview.
Hold on. Let me make sure. Did we sign my contract?
Yeah.
How many more questions are there like that?
Well, look. When I played against, I remember TCU and Florida State. They had lean, tall, big guys, and they did just that. It was the hardest thing because they would make me choose a side, but then their long arms, they just give me a little flicker.
Yeah, one little shove,
and I'm gone, man. So
that's why you hit the weight room, man.
Yeah, I can only do so much.
Horsepower. It's called horsepower.
Yes.
The bigger you are and the faster you can move.
I could only do so much. But okay, so back to this question. So I'm not going to make you say what other schools you were looking at and opportunities, but you did say that you pumped the brakes and you just jumped at this. What made you so intrigued about coming to BYU?
Well, I've known about BYU. So I was actually born in South Florida and grew up a Miami Hurricane fan. And so my first memory of BYU is hearing about them beating Miami when they're, I don't know what year it was.
1990.
Yeah, you guys probably know. Yeah,
everybody knows.
You guys probably know better than me. But, I just kind of always, that was my first memory of it. And then when Grimy got this job a year ago, I remember we actually happened to be both recruiting in Atlanta. at the time, and we got together at a hotel or just having dinner, and he had mentioned that he might be coming here, and I was like, wow, that'd be a really cool job. So I was kind of interested in it last year, but I had just gotten to Texas State, and so I had a commitment there to stay there for a few years, and obviously when things shook out the way they did this offseason, when this job opened up, I mean it's got unbelievable fan base, it's got great tradition, of big guys. I like places like that have good tradition of big people having success. So it was a no-brainer. It really was.
That's amazing that your first memory is the 90 game, which is considered the greatest kind of win in BYU football history.
Ever.
Even winning the national title, some people think, beating Miami. And there were 65,000 people at that game. There's like 200,000 that claim they were there. I was there.
I saw it.
I was there in spirit.
You and everybody else. This O-line is really interesting, too, because one starter's gone, Austin Hoyt, tremendous player. But there's a lot of good talent on this group. What do you kind of know about him, and how do you feel about him?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, who really sold me on the job was Ryan. I had a conversation with him over the phone when they were talking about bringing me on an interview, and I just kind of said, hey, give me the lowdown on what's in the room right now. And, he just went from top to bottom, and I was like, well, that's an impressive group of kids. And I say kids, they're young men, but, I know that they're young in age and experience, but they have experience, if that makes sense. So it's not like they're totally green, but it's not like they're, 24 games into their career either. So that helps a lot. I know that I watched one game of film yesterday, the New Mexico State game, and they're just big, lean, got great stature. I mean, those are the things, and they're smart, and they came a long ways throughout the season. You could tell where they were playing pretty well at the end.
We witnessed.
Yeah,
we liked seeing the improvement, absolutely. And I can't wait for you to watch the Wisconsin game.
Yeah,
that was an amazing display of BYU out muscling Wisconsin. It was incredible.
That's impressive, because me and Jeff went up there to we played at Wisconsin, and they muscled us around
with LSU.
Yeah, right? When I was at LSU, we played them at the Lambeau Field. So that's a really impressive win to go on the road and do that.
Have you had a chance to talk to any of your guys yet?
I met a couple of them on Tuesday, just when I was getting a tour. Or not Tuesday, Friday, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I just met a couple guys, and I've texted with all of them, and they're on a long break, so we're
okay. Cool. So you can practice with me and Jaron right now. So you guys have a meeting, first time. This is the front with the classroom. What do you say to us as an introduction in regards to some of the goals that you have for us as players on and off the field?
Right.
Oh, put you on the spot.
No. Well, I think the guys, they'll learn pretty quick. My biggest thing is that it's a very transparent room, and the goals, I always believe that the best O-lines are the ones that they run it. I kind of steer them in the right direction, but the best O-lines in the country every year are the ones that they're like, if there was no coach, they could go have a practice.
Yeah, I see.
And so that's going to be the message from the get-go, is that we'll be as good as you want to be. And the talent's there, the experience is there. My job is to kind of steer them in the right direction, but without, because if it just comes in and it's my O-line, well, there's going to be personalities in the room that might not say, well, I don't want it to be your O-line. Well, so if it belongs to the players, then I think we'll get some really good results.
So there's a lot of similarities with DBs and offensive linemen. And I think that's why I personally have always got along with them so great. Also, they're good to have.
You don't want to get them mad at you either, right?
No, but it's more so just to have like a bouncer with me 24/7.
True.
You know what I'm saying? When I'm out anywhere,
security,
hey, we just won. You guys want to go to the club so I could have a bodyguard. But anyway. Obviously, you guys start in the back pedal. We start in the back pedal at times, right? We know schemes and we know where our assignments are within what's called, but we adjust on the fly, pre-snap, whatever the case is. We're going against defenders or the opponents that kind of know where they're already going, things like that. And I believe that. I believe that from a defensive back standpoint, we have to understand. We kind of have to run it ourselves, right? And I make that. I build this up to ask you that question. Is it because of the similarities, that we have, or maybe the disadvantages that people would say, starting back pedals or backpedaling, not really knowing where your opponent is going, etc., to why you want them to run it versus you kind of calling the shots?
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, that was a very long question.
No, but well, to get back to your original point, I think the reason O linemen and DBs kind of live in a similar world is because no one really thinks about them until they get beat.
Oh,
you know,
so true.
Your job, silence.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully this is the last time you guys ever talk to me or talk about me. So no, but I think that's a similar aspect where, you know, if a tackle gets beat on a sack on third down, everyone in the stadium knows who it was, what his number is, where his mom's sitting, and
girlfriend,
and all that. But I think that's a common thing with those two positions. But the reason I think that they got to run the room is just because when those guys are on the field, they're unit DBs now most of the time playing nickel packages, right? So there's 5 DBs on the field most of the time in 2019 football, and there's always 5 O linemen, sometimes 6 if you want to get big, and so that's a huge percentage of your offense or defensive unit that are on the field by themselves. And so, you know, if you're, you know, not, I don't want to talk bad about anybody else's position, but if there's 1 or 2 of your position on the field, you might be able to scream at the guy, tell him what to do on that play. But with DBs and O-line, I think they have to handle things and make adjustments themselves out there more than any other position group.
Makes sense. We're talking with Eric Mateos, the new offensive line coach here at BYU. Let's finish with this. On your Twitter profile a few days ago, you had a picture of the Kansas City Chiefs O-line.
Yeah.
I believe that John Tate was in that photo, was he?
Yeah,
not?
he was.
He was on the left side. Former BYU guy.
Yeah.
Maybe the greatest tackle at BYU.
I didn't realize that until somebody pointed. I didn't know that he went here. I mean, I knew it was John Tate.
Yeah, first round pick. He was awesome.
Well, so like that O-line was when you're a kid, no one's really wanting to play O-line when they're a little kid, right? You know, like, oh, I want to be a quarterback, I want to be a running back.
I want to be a guard.
Yeah, I want to hold the ball. I want people to know who I am. But when that O-line was together with Kansas City, it was after obviously I had moved there, and that was kind of the O-line that made me feel as a kid, you know what, it's cool to be an O-lineman. You know, because they were really good. You got 3 Hall of Famers on that O-line. Obviously, Tate was a great player. Casey Wigman was a great player. Will Shields, Willie Rofe. I'm missing somebody. Brian Waters. So it was one of the best O-lines ever, I think. So that's kind of the O-line that made me think,
that's cool.
It's cool. It's cool to be an O-lineman.
And included a BYU guy.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Let's start a hashtag. It's cool to be an online.
I don't think it's going to trend, but let's start it. Yeah.
We gotta have T-shirts first, then do the hashtag.
Exactly. Well, thanks for coming in. Let's give you some BYU Sports Nation karma. We give good luck in your training. Yeah. Brian likes to hold hands. Yeah, it's a little weird.
It's only weird if you make it. It's only weird if you make it.
It's only weird if you think it's weird.
Yeah, exactly. And then, do you mind signing our flag?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Is there a good designated spot?
Wherever you want, dude. You're the new guy. You can sign where you want. Eric Mateos.
You can do
his first reckoning of BYU, the '90 Miami game. I love it. John Tate. He's got all these connections. He barely knew it. Awesome.